Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, five-time author and fiduciary, the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
Welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm your host, retirement specialist Tony Walker, and for about the next 28 minutes or so, I'm going to take you on a journey specifically designed with the saver personality in mind. Well, here we are. By the time you watch this pre-recorded show, we'll be at or near Christmas 2017. And yes, 'tis the season to be jolly, but it's also a time of the year that we tend to associate with giving, both giving gifts to others as well as hopefully receiving a few gifts along the way. Oh, isn't that funny though? I always say that. Oh, you don't have to get me anything, and then I get somebody something, they don't get me something. I'm like, hey, where's my gift? But anyway, since this is a financial show dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, I thought it would be most appropriate for me to share with you ways in which you might give to others on a very potentially tax favorable way. We're going to see this in a minute, so you want to stay tuned. And of course, since we are approaching Christmas, later on in the show, I'm going to share with you what the Bible has to say about this whole notion of giving. So let's just start with the concept of giving, and why do we even give in the first place? Who do we normally choose to give to? And what sort of emotions does giving actually elicit to others, but also to ourselves? It's interesting that Webster's defines one way that it defines giving is as follows: the act of offering money in exchange for goods or services. So when you think about it, if we're brutally honest with ourselves, we give usually expecting something in return. Now that something might be a tax deduction, it might be just the feel-good feeling that comes with giving. In religious circles, it might be that you hope that you give and hopefully getting something back from God, or that God would be pleased or somehow repay you for sins of some sort or whatever. But regardless of what you think about giving, it is an act that we all participate in, but in different degrees. And of course, we give for different reasons, and that's okay. We're human, all right? But since we're talking about giving, and since I'm the host of the TV show, if you're okay with this, I want to talk about people, places, or things that yours truly actually enjoys giving to. Here's a few of them. I love giving to church. I love giving to the Salvation Army. That's a good one for me. My wife and I both love giving to the Humane Society. We're big dog lovers. I actually love giving to people in secret. That's kind of fun. In other words, they don't know who gave it. I love giving to my kids. We're going to see this in the next segment. I love giving to my high school sweetheart and wife of 30 plus years, Susan. And on occasion, depending on how nice my other family members are to me, I like giving to family members. I also like giving to my clients, as evidenced by all the client events we like to do, as evidenced by the staff that I pay very well to make sure my clients are taken care of. And of course, I love taking care and giving to my staff. Sometimes I like giving to friends. And I'll really get a kick out of giving to people who serve me. Waiters, waitresses, hotel staff, caddies at the golf course. People who just work hard to make things pleasant for you. I love giving to those type of people. So why do I give? Well, in most cases, it's to show my appreciation and gratitude to those people who either I love, care about, or simply appreciate what they do for me. Now, I don't know about you, but what I do not love is when you, tell me if you're with me on this, okay? Aaron's America's favorite financial sidekick. You may be with me on this, maybe not, but I'm going to take a shot at it. I don't like going through those supermarket checkouts and all of a sudden it gets real quiet and the cashier almost belts out as if they're going to announce this over the PA system. You don't want to donate $1 to, it might be the Bearded Pelican Fund or whatever. I don't know, but it's you fill in the blank. You might say, well, Tony, why would you get hung up on giving $1 to their charity? And my response is, here's the key, and tell me, I'm fleshy, I know that, but I don't like anyone asking me to give under duress or under pressure to some organization. And it's not about the money, it's the idea of someone asking for money in that type of manner. Now, recently, I was invited to a public event with the upfront notion and understanding that it was going to be a fundraiser for a particular charity. I was okay with that because I knew in advance that I had the option of either attending or not attending. So in general, I'm fine with that type of thing. I just don't want anybody putting me under compulsion to give. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's just how I feel. So enough of just the giving of gifts and all that type of stuff. This is a financial show. So when I come back, I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios of why you might think about giving to family, friends, etc., maybe even charity, and how different giving might look. This is going to be a really, really entertaining, but also very educational thought about giving to others during this time of year, but not only for just your purposes, but also for tax purposes and getting your stuff moved over to somebody else who can use it. I'm Tony Walker. I'm going to get the whiteboard out. I'll be right back.
I've worked hard all my life, and I've saved a lot of money in my 401k. And now that I'm getting close to retirement, I really don't know what to do with it.
Sound like your situation? I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 30 years, I've helped thousands of people worry less about money, and I'd like to help you too.
Don't leave your future to chance. Get a game plan now with one of the most experienced and trusted names in the business. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? For a limited time, 5-time author and retirement specialist Tony Walker is making available his latest book, Mailbox Money for Life. For your free copy, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Did you realize that the range of taxes on your Social Security income can be anywhere from 0 to 85%? Whether you're already retired or nearing retirement, you need a game plan to be sure you're getting the most of your Social Security income and any other retirement assets. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 30 years I've been helping savers use, enjoy, and protect more of their hard-earned money. To schedule a free, no obligation to meet with me personally, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement. This is really not a question on Tony in the Trenches, but more of a comment that I received from someone the other day. Great comment, actually. The prior show that we did, we talked about my credentials, and this particular gentleman said, you know what, I appreciated your show on credentials, but I also went to FINRA's, it's called Broker Check website to kind of check you out. And I said, you know what? Obviously, FINRA oversees everything we do as a fiduciary, but I've never gone to this website. And I thought this might be good for you to be aware of this particular website. Let's just put it full screen, Aaron, and then I'm going to show you on the screen how you would fill it out and find me or any other advisor. It's actually brokercheck.finra.org. FINRA is F-I-N-R-A. FINRA stands for Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. So again, this would be a great site. Let's say you're thinking about working with an advisor. You're already working with an advisor. There's so many people out there touting services, and I mean, there's a retirement specialist on every corner, folks. When I first started doing this after 9/11, there were very few people. So again, if you want to check out a broker or a fiduciary such as myself, I'll show you how to do this. So you're into the website. So I've gone to brokercheck.finra.org. Now, basically for me, you see the name there. Basically, my full name, let's type that in, is Philip, 2 L's, A. Walker. I had somebody say they couldn't find out much on Tony Walker. My official name's Philip A. Walker, A for Anthony and Tony. That's where that comes from. Now, the firm name, same thing on this. If you type in Tony Walker Financial, let's type in instead Walker Financial Services, okay? Walker Financial Services is the official name of my corporation that is logged in with FINRA. That's who we're registered with. And then finally, you would put, in this case, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then you would search, and you can see basically I've had no complaints, knock on wood, as my mom used to say. There's no criminal activity. It's a way to look and see. Now, you'll notice the licensing. I was licensed in securities back in the mid-'80s. I dropped my securities license in the mid-'90s and got my Series 68 because I realized back then I'd become a registered investment advisor without actually having to keep all the different securities licenses. In the early 2000s, I got my Series 65, which is what they require now to be a fiduciary. So obviously I've got all the licensing and everything. Now this is not an endorsement website. This is a place where you can go to check out advisors such as myself. And I would highly encourage you, especially before you put large sums of money with an advisor, check this out, go through it very closely, make sure again that they check out okay on the FINRA website, this brokercheck.finra.org website. Hopefully that'll be of help to you as well. All right, we're talking about giving. This is the show that keeps on giving, right? And I want to go through 3 different scenarios that might help you think about ways you can give, and especially on a very tax-efficient way. Because remember, folks, we can't take this stuff with us. At some point in our life, we have to decide who we're going to pass it on to, excuse me, during our lifetime or at death. Now, the first one I'm going to show you, scenario 1, all right? I'm going to show you my own personal situation with one of my assets and show you what I did with this in 2017, all right? So again, anything I'm going to suggest to people, I've always told them, I myself would do it as well. I think it was John Bogle that says, an advisor should also be eating his own cooking. I agree with that. So this is called the transfer of asset scenario. What I did was, I have an office building in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Let's throw up a shot of that, Aaron. That's where our main offices are located, where all the support staff is located. Again, we have offices in Bowling Green and Louisville. Oh, incidentally, by the way, we are going to be moving in the spring of 2018 to 8303 Shelbyville Road. Here's a picture of the building that we've purchased. We're going through a lot of remodeling, but again, in spring 2018, we'll be at 8303 Shelbyville Road, and looking forward to that. Okay, so what did I do here? The office building in Bowling Green was owned by me and Susan, my wife Susan. What we did is I decided to transfer that building into something I created called Walker Family Investments, LLC. So it's its own entity, has its own tax ID, files its own tax return, and this transfer went in there for the benefit of me and Susan, but also our 3 adult children. And you say, well, what did that cost, Tony, to transfer that in there? Well, the beauty is, under the current tax law, we can gift, the building's not near worth $1 million, by the way, but we can gift, or you can gift, up to $1 million in your lifetime. And if you want to do that, you can file what's called a gift tax return. So we included our 3 children, and you'll see down here, you still have Tony and Susan because we're still a party to this. So our 3 children each got 25%, we kept 25% of the building. So technically, let's say I were to sell this building, any proceeds from it would be divided equally. And you say, well, why did you do that, Tony? Well, first of all, I'm doing this for income planning for them as well, but also if there is appreciation on this building in the future, that appreciation will be passed over to them without me continually having to erode and take up my $1 million exemption, that I want to reserve some of that in the future. Now, here's the beauty of this. So I can take, so here's Tony and Susan here. There's child 1, child 2, and child 3. And if I want to, as the manager of this LLC, I can distribute income. Now, the reason I want to be able to do this, income for all 3, is because, as you can imagine, because of my income, Susan and I are in a higher tax bracket than my children. So in other words, Tony Walker Financial, let's draw this one over here. Okay, my business, Tony Walker Financial, pays rent, all right, to the office building, which in turn literally goes into Walker LLC, Walker Family Investments LLC. And if I distribute some of that rental income down to the kids, they're in a lower tax bracket. By the way, folks, this is all perfectly legal. You just need to have things set up properly to do so. So what's happening is I have a gifting strategy. Again, it's like the Jelly of the Month Club. It just keeps on giving. And also, if I want to distribute income, I can distribute that through the agreement I have down to the children who are in lower tax brackets to save them taxes. So future appreciation, it's helpful if the building goes up in value, gets transferred over to the kids without additional taxes. And of course, we can distribute income from this if we want to their tax bracket versus having it imposed on mine. So that's an example if you have assets. If you had land, you could do this. large amounts of securities that have non-qualified assets that maybe have a large gain built in them. You could do something like this. Buildings, et cetera, et cetera. If you have any ideas or want some help with this, I can talk you through it. Obviously, I have to use one of my attorneys and accountant to do all this. I can't set it up. I just know how to set it up. There's a big difference. But you got to be careful when you do this. Make sure it's set up properly. Let's look at a different scenario here called the transfer of the exclusion. Now, under current law, you could actually give, and let's just say this was a $100,000 money market account sitting in a bank. And whenever you see NQ, that means non-qualified. So this means in this example, someone has $100,000 languishing in the bank. Maybe they're in their 60s or 70s, and they're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not earning any interest on it. I don't think I'm even going to need this money for some reason. Can I give some of this money to my kids now without any taxes whatsoever? And in this example, the answer is yes. So each year, okay, you actually, let's say it's a husband and wife, $14,000 a year actually per person. So let's think about this. So my thoughts on with kids, even adult children, quite frankly, they're not going to have it as easy as maybe a lot of you sitting out there, or maybe even me. I'm talking about the younger generation. I do think it's going to be difficult for them. So what if, instead of just letting the money sit there and everybody's waiting for you to die and they're going to come around the coffin and we're going to try to divide it up then, why don't we try to divide it up now so you can help these people now and also keep the taxes down? Because this, up to $14,000 per year per person, is tax-free to them. Now, you don't get a deduction, but that's okay. You've already paid taxes on it. So in this example, husband and wife could gift actually $28,000 a year to child one, 28 here and 28 here, with no income taxes. And think about this, folks. They could turn around and do their own planning. So let's take an example of this. I have one client that's doing this. This person's adult child, and by the way, if you'd like us to show you how to do this, it's called overfunded life insurance. Man, it's a great technique for perpetuating wealth on it into the next generation with more tax-free assets to it. So $14,000 a year. Let's just say on the adult child takes out a $500,000 life insurance policy, and when they die, that's going to be tax-free. So think about this. Versus a 401k, let's say, that gets taxed over and over and over. This tax tumor just keeps nailing each generation as people die. This is the opposite. We're getting out of this tax trap. We're trying to relinquish our money through a gifting strategy that goes to the next generation tax-free. They purchase overfunded life insurance, which even buys more tax-free benefit. That goes to who? In this example, grandchildren. Who doesn't want to help grandchildren, right? What's the old joke? The common enemy of grandparents and grandchildren are the parents of the grandchildren. I don't remember how that goes. It's just a funny joke. So basically, that would be called a transfer of the annual exclusion. And absolutely, I'd be happy to help you with this type of stuff. I've been doing this stuff for years, folks. And that's part of working with a retirement specialist. If a retirement specialist isn't talking about this, they're not a retirement specialist. They're basically peddling something. So yeah, we sell products. Yeah, we manage money. We have to get paid that way. But with me comes all of this 33 years of doing this type of stuff that can help you think through an overall game plan that includes much more than just financial products. Folks, remember, financial products are a piece of the puzzle. They ain't the whole puzzle. Okay, and finally, our third scenario here, and if we're going to scan over here just a little bit, I call this the transfer of the RMD, or the required minimum distribution. So in this scenario, let's imagine that you're sitting here and let's say you're 72, so you know you have to take out these required minimum distributions. That's the age at which you turn 70 and a half, and the government says, okay, pay up, big boy, you're going to have to start taking money out here. We want our tax revenue. That's really what that means. So this example, let's say you have a $300,000 pre-tax qualified IRA, and just for the fun of it, at your age 72, and you have to take out $12,000 per year. And obviously that is going to go up over time because they're going to force you to take more and more money out. And you might say, Tony, I don't need the money. I don't want the money. Maybe you were over here under scenario 2 giving money to kids in different ways. Maybe you even did an LLC and you're sitting there going, what am I going to do with this RMD? All I'm doing is paying taxes on it. Well, there's lots of things you could do. You could gift it to family, you could spend it, but here's a neat little thing you could do. Now again, this isn't something you just run out and do. You want to make sure and verify that your brokerage account or your bank account can do this and will do this. But basically, we take the RMD, all right, and we don't take it out of pocket. We tell the financial institution that's holding the money to send it directly to charity. And you say, well, why would we do that? Why don't I just take the money and then donate it? Don't I get a deduction? Well, you do, but the problem with that is if you take this $12,000 and put it in your pocket and then turn around and gift it to the charity, that's all well and good, but that still has to go through your tax return. It could mess up other tax ramifications, Social Security, etc. This way you bypass the whole shooting match. It goes directly to the charity. It's never included as income, and it's a pretty slick way to do that. That's, again, a strategy for your required minimum distribution. So I hope this helps, folks. What we're just trying to show you, none of these scenarios may pertain to you. All of them might. There are other scenarios we could come up with, but think about this. You're going to be here for a limited period of time. That's the facts. There's only so much money you need, so much you can spend, and there are people out there that could be assisted by your giving. So what are you waiting for? Why don't we sit down and let's go through a strategy session, and in that we'll also include some ideas on giving money to loved ones or possibly charity. It's easy to do. Just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started button, and we're going to arrange a no-cost, no-obligation appointment to meet with me personally in either our Louisville or Bowling Green office, whatever's convenient for you. Do it today. Don't put it off. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, what does the Bible have to say about giving? Well, as we're going to find out, that's a silly question. It has a lot to say about giving. But first, I didn't even bring a cup. I got to go get my Bible. I got to go get my coffee. I'll be right back. You stay tuned.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? For a limited time, five-time author and retirement specialist Tony Walker is making available his latest book, Mailbox Money for Life. For your free copy, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Ever wonder how advisors make money? Hi, I'm registered investment advisor Tony Walker, and for years, advisors representing Wall Street have convinced you that fees are better than paying commissions. Well, no wonder. Look at this example of an advisor charging 1.5% per year on your money. Wow, they've made a lot of money whether you did or not. If you feel like everybody's making more money on your money than you are, schedule an appointment with me today. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. All right, another good cup of coffee on this glorious morning in our Louisville studios. Glad to have you back with us. And you might be saying, okay, Tony, we all know the Bible has something to talk about giving. That's all it talks about, isn't it? And then that really is a silly question of what the Bible has to say about giving. But we need to address, particularly during this time of year, especially since we're celebrating Christmas, God's take on how we give, we as in humans, versus how He gives. You see, I believe that since the fall of man, when that dark time of Adam and Eve kind of ate that forbidden fruit, the Bible says that Adam, that's you and me, we're represented by Adam, became a living soul. Now I'm going somewhere with this, hang in there. So what that means is that Adam, as a result of this sin, went from having it made in the garden, all those gifts that God gave them, and then basically all of a sudden being cast out and basically on their own. In other words, it was every man for himself at that point. So when we became that living soul, we became to look out for number one. That's why when we give, in many cases, we are expecting something in return. In other words, it is conditional or tainted. We give to get. Unfortunately, that's what we do sometimes. But God doesn't look at it that way. He doesn't view giving that way. In fact, I would argue that all through Scripture we see this loving God who simply gives in order to give. He's unconditional in His giving. He gives expecting nothing in return except one thing, and I believe that's gratitude from us as to what He gives us. Problem is, while we might say we're a grateful people, all you got to do is turn on TV and then look at your heart occasionally, and you'll see that we're not very grateful at all. Like Adam, we've become this living soul, and we tend to make it always about us. In other words, what do we get when we give? Now, I'm not here to make you feel guilty about your potential lack of giving. That's not my job. I'm not here to pump you up in case you feel like you give a lot and now you're getting a little self-righteous. That's not my gig either. What I'm here to do is remind you that the greatest gift ever given to mankind was God's gift of His Son Christ. Given all of that gift to mankind for mankind's acceptance. Now, this was an unconditional gift. This was a time when God says, I'm going to take you from being a living soul to now you're going to live by my Spirit. And by the way, folks, no amount of giving can repay God for such a gracious gift, what Jesus did at the cross. Now, the Bible says that when we are led by the Spirit, giving becomes a natural byproduct of who we are and what we do. We're not really told to think about it. It should just kind of occur. We should not even know what the left hand and the right hand are doing. That's the way we should give, and that's what God's Spirit allows us to think. We just live differently, and it's a more gracious form of living. Now, I want to go over real quickly, as we're about to run out of time, Romans 5:16. Look at what Paul says about this transition that took place from Adam, that's where we were, and then the death of Christ at the cross to where we are now by faith. So let's take a look at Romans 5:16, and it says, and the gift, here we go, talking about Christ, the gift is not like that which came through the one who sinned. He's talking about Adam. For on the one hand, the judgment arose from one transgression, that was the one sin in the Garden of Eden, resulting in condemnation. Now that's not real good. So because of Adam's sin, we are all, Adam and us included, are condemned. Not a good situation to be in. Can't work your way out of it, can't pay your way out of it, can't give your way out of it. That's where we are. But on the other hand, look at this. The free gift arose from many transgressions, resulting in justification. And it goes on down to say in verse 19, through one man's disobedience, again that's Adam, we were made sinners, but one man's obedience, the one, that's Christ, we will be made righteous. So this is great news, folks. This is news you can bank on. And when we think about giving this holiday season, or even giving throughout the rest of our lives, let's look at it from an attitude of gratitude. Let's give and try to not give with the left hand knowing what the right hand is doing. Let's do it by God's Spirit and be gracious in your giving, and you will be the better person for it, I can assure you. And quite frankly, you're going to worry less about money when you take that attitude. What about your attitude towards just giving? What about your attitude towards retirement? What about your attitude between somebody that can just sit down with you and go through all of this and look at different options that are available to you? Well, let's get started with sitting down and getting a game plan in place. Regardless of whether you're 40, 60, 70, 80, it doesn't matter. You're never too old or young to plan for the future, and I want to help. It's easy to do. You just go to the TonyWalkerFinancial.com website, click on the Let's Get Started. I'll be happy to meet with you at your convenience in either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky office, or if you'd like to just have a phone conversation to talk briefly about your situation, please feel free to give us a call at 877-499-WALK. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, until next week, I'm Tony Walker wishing you a good day. And if all else fails between now and the next time I see you, you remember to be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.